I'm always proud to speak to students, especially LCA students that might think that they're not smart or they're never going to, take off in life because school didn't exactly fit them in certain ways. And I definitely was that person. Because I remember when I went to school back in the 90s, I struggled in school from a young age. So what I mean by that is the teacher would be writing up on the blackboard and I'd be struggling to keep up with the teacher. And they'd often say, has everyone got that so I can rub it off and start again? But I'd never be anywhere near where the teacher was on the board, and I wasn't willing to put my hand in the air because why? I obviously didn't want everyone in the class to know that I was stupid. So I found it easier to just distract others and found myself kicked out of class an awful lot because back in them days, it was just if you're kind of distractive to teachers or to students, it was easy just to kick you out of class. So I would have spent a lot of my time out in the hall or facing the wall. And what I know now, what I didn't know then is there was a real negative voice developing in my head that constantly was telling me that I wasn't good enough because I didn't know any different. And that's why one of my real passions is the education system. I don't believe that as human beings we get half enough out of the education system as we should, because it's just tailored to certain people who understand stuff within a classroom. And I was that naive person that just believed that, okay, well, I'm not good in school, so I'm never going to amount to or never going to be successful at anything. So for me, I went through then into secondary school and I done the Leaving Cert Applied, and it was a great experience for me. Why? Because people who don't know what I mean, it's a hands-on approach to Leaving Cert. There's you can be yourself a lot more. We'll say the teachers are maybe in my time a little bit more lenient on you than probably other students, but I had a couple of really good teachers that knew that school didn't suit me and knew that I wasn't a bad person either, and they kind of let me be me. Like, and often on a Friday they might say, "Oh, Rory, sings a song or tell us a story," and little did I know, but it was actually building what I do now back then. But I didn't realise I was going to go on to do what I do. But I'm very thankful to them certain teachers and teachers who are here and teachers who are listening. Make no mistake about your influence on young people. Like, a lot of people look in and people say, "Oh, they're bold or they're no good or." They're just, they're bad eggs. I don't believe in that. Like, I believe a lot of, the majority are massive 90% plus are genuinely good kids. Like, I have a couple of friends who were out in the hall with me in primary school, and unfortunately they went the wrong direction. One lad is unfortunately in jail at the minute. A couple of lads are struggling with bad addictions and stuff like that. And I know they're good guys. Like, I grew up with them, but unfortunately, they just didn't see anything else. They felt, well, I'm no good at anything else, so might as well get into the drinking and the drugs and whatever else that goes with it. So I left LCA and I didn't know what to do with myself. And, my father, typical Irish man, go get yourself a trade. You're useless in school, get yourself a trade. So I got myself a trade as an electrician. Now, I can never be an electrician on a month of Sundays with these big Mars bar fingers on me. But anyway, I went and I tried to do it, and sure, I couldn't even spell electrician on the fast forms because I'd be dyslexic, so I wouldn't be good at spelling at all. And anyway, I kind of knew, because I heard people saying, well, geez, Rory, if you can't spell electrician, how do you expect to be one? And I said, sure, we'll give it a lash. And I remember I went to Foss and lads were wiring cookers and immersions around me, and I didn't know one with a cable to the next. And, that voice again from primary school would be at me again, going, geez, Rory, you really are stupid. And I was good, though, at hiding that because, I grew up in a housing estate. I was big for my age, and I was well able for the slagging. Like, I had a good kind of streetwise wit to me. So I was able to fob off looking stupid, if that makes sense, with a joke or crack something that would take the attention away from the fact that I hadn't a clue what I was doing. So I went back to Foss and my manager said, well, Rory, how did you get on? And I said, a bit of crack. And he said, well, there was 8 modules, Rory, and you passed 1. And he said, we've never had an electrician ever pass 1. He said, what were you doing in there? And I looked at Mick and I said, Mick, to be honest with you, I'm actually delighted I passed the 1. Yeah, Jesus says that. I said, which one was that, if you don't mind me asking? And Mick said, it was your attendance, Rory. I said, you show up to Foss and you get paid. So I said, what will you do now? He said, I think you're a good guy, but I'd only see you Monday morning. And I was like, right, Mick, I just want to make sure I'm 100% on the same page. Does that mean I'm sacked? That's exactly what it means. Okay, right, so back to the mommy and daddy, no electrician. Yeah, well, what can you do? And that pressure mounts on you, as a few of the students here will understand. What am I going to do with myself? Where am I going to go? And I was lucky enough to get a job in Quinn Direct Insurance. I blagged my way through a job interview mainly because of the GEA and that connection I made with the interviewer, because apart from that, I knew nothing about insurance. I knew nothing about claims. My sister done up my CV for me and she put on that I had insurance exams on the CV, and I just nodded the head as the woman asked me about the exams. And I brought up GEA and I knew she was into it, and all of a sudden I got this job. It's great, but I went into this job in Quinn Insurance and there was emails coming in from solicitors and insurance companies. And not only did I not understand what they meant, but I couldn't even understand some of the words in the email. So I'd just be deleting all these emails. Anyway, this went on for a few months and I got a written warning and I got a verbal warning, but I got a bit of luck, and I think honest people get rewarded a bit of luck. So I was just such myself in the job. I remember Manny meeting going, Rory, you're not exactly up to scratch here. And I was like, I'm far away from scratch now. Come on, let's be honest with each other. And she goes, the only reason you're still here is because you're great morale in you're good crack basically. And I've always been known as good crack, but I was never any good at anything. So I said, when am I going to get sacked? And I constantly just was always waiting for when am I going to get sacked, because I never felt good enough at no matter what I'd done. So I got a bit of luck, and Sean Quinn was offering redundancies to people, and it was voluntary redundancy to the whole company, but he took the word voluntary out of me. It was just redundancy for that fella. and that was fair enough. So I got a big redundancy package, and I went off to Australia and learned more about myself and had a bit of crack. But I come home then in 2011 in the middle of a recession, as people remember, and I got a job in a call center it was maybe not even €10 an hour. And it was then when the real kind of self-doubt and the real negative voices were going bananas in my head, because I'd be sitting in this job that I hated and getting abused on the phone, and I'd often have a conversation with myself being like, geez, Rory, you really are stupid. You don't even have a proper leaving cert, you don't even have a college degree, you don't even have a apprenticeship, you actually are useless. And this voice would be constantly telling me that. And I suppose to hold you there and bring it back tonight, it's about 16, mightn't be far off age, a few years here, I put on my first gambling bet, and the bet won, and I became addicted to gambling because I have a very addictive personality. It's something that I live with, and it can be a positive and a negative, which I'll explain. But gambling for me was something to kind of take my mind away from reality. So I hated my job. I kind of hated myself, believe it or not, even though other people looking in would have been like, good footballer and, good person to be around. But in my head, I couldn't see that. So gambling anyway was a way of releasing to get myself away from reality. So what happened then is, long story short, in 2013, I hit rock bottom myself. And how it came about is the club, I love playing football, and we were knocked out of county championship. And the next day, I went drinking in Dublin all day, in and out of bookies, in and out of pub. And I turned off my phone. I didn't care about my girlfriend at home, my young child. And in hindsight, I was definitely a man that was completely running away from reality. And that night we were in a nightclub and I didn't want to be there. And I lied to my friends and I went back to the casino and I took out my last €200 and I lost it on a roulette table. And I remember leaving the casino that night, very out of body experience. I genuinely felt that was it now. My body was numb, and when I went outside the casino, the negative thoughts were severe in my head. It was like, you're stupid. That was the number one thing I used to always tell myself, you're stupid, you really are. And I had a couple of teachers in primary school that I don't particularly have much respect for, that would have rammed home that I was stupid, put it that way. You're a bad father, you're a gambler. And suicide was very strong in my head that night. I just wanted out, but thankfully 2 things entered my head. And this is why mental health awareness is very important. And anyone who follows Rory Stories knows I'm very prominent with sharing my experiences and trying for other people to kind of understand that you're not alone in this battle with mental health. And because my cousin took his life when I was young flat, and I remember it well, and it just shook everyone. And I remember everyone being like, why, and God, we should have been there for him, and all this kind of stuff. And I kind of promised that can't be me. And I was at the funeral down of a man called Shane McEnany down in Nobber, County Meath, on Christmas Eve the year before. I had my breakdown, and his brother Jerry spoke in the church, and he made it very simple. He said, whoever was feeling like my brother, please ask for help, and don't have yourself or your family going through what we did. So that hit me that night, and I realized suicide is not an option, because it never is. And I got home and I rang my girlfriend, and there was definitely tears, and I was in a very bad place. And the next day my father came down and we had a conversation, and he promised me the help was there, and it was. So this is where kind of my story turns, I suppose, 360 is I met a man from the Rutland Centre. The Rutland Centre is an addiction counselling centre, and he spoke to me about addiction, and he made it very simple. He said, the thing is with addictive personality is it can be used in a negative or a positive manner. So negative is like gambling, drugs, alcohol, anything that's very easy for us all. And like, I'm not going to stand here letting on a Mother Teresa, like, or Mother Goose. Like, I struggled myself during the pandemic and all, drinking too much and kind of in that slippery slope or whatever. But that's easy to get drawn into that addiction. And a lot of people get into that platform and they find it very hard to pull themselves out. But he mentioned this positive platform. And he was like, you know, some of the most successful people live on this platform. He's like Denzel Washington, Oprah Winfrey, you know, our own Katie Taylor, for instance. Like, if you were to take Katie Taylor's drive for boxing and pull her out of boxing and put her on this platform, she just completely overdose on drugs. She'd lose all her money. Why? Because she's 110% all the time. Like, and we look in at Katie Taylor going, why is she still fighting all the time? Like, we know she's unbeatable. We know she's the best ever, because Katie, I'm sure, probably has that voice telling her she needs to keep going. She's not good enough, and she's fighting against Katie. She's not fighting against anyone else. It's Katie against Katie, and I can relate to that myself. So he went away and he said, you need to find something you're interested in and fill the void. Like, find something that you're passionate about and kind of transfer that energy onto that platform. So as God is my judge, I went away. And I said, well, I've always wanted to get into acting and comedy, like, you know, and it's something, as I said, like, I enjoyed doing, and I never had a fear of standing in front of the crowd. I was no bother telling stories in school and all that. And I just felt it was something that naturally came to me, because Christ, electrician, it come natural to me, that's for sure. And certainly, basically anything I tried to do that you get paid to do, I was useless at. That's a simple way of putting it. But geez, having the crack, yeah, that's no bother to me. So I remember having a conversation with myself going, well, you've tried everything else, like, so you might as well try this. And there's a great saying by Jim Carrey. It's like, you might as well take a chance and do something that you love, because you can do something that you hate and fail anyway. So I could relate to that, because I tried all these stuff that I didn't enjoy, and I was still failing. So as God is my judge, I went home 2013, and I wrote Rory Stories on a piece of paper. Just felt, you know, start off with a good name. Name's Rory, I like telling stories, simple name. And yeah, I just started from there, and I started writing blogs, and it turned into be a Facebook page in 2014 called Rory Stories, and I started to do sketches on the GAA because it was my passion, and I was working really hard. I wasn't thinking about like anything other than in the moment, and I was making 3 videos every Saturday on a Nokia, or not even a Nokia, not far off a Nokia, like it was like a 30 or an iPhone 3 or 4, real bad quality, but it didn't matter because people were relating to the comedy I was sharing on social media, and without realising I had 100,000 followers on that platform. And I remember what Jerry had said to me was happening, like I'd stopped thinking about gambling and I was engrossed in this, and I was a bit of manic engrossed, and like I was like doing everything I could. I was getting lads to be in the gigs, I was getting jerseys, I was losing football pitches. I was just fully on the right path. But the thing is that for once in my life I felt a purpose, like I felt a why. Like we all have to have a why in life. What is a why? A why is, why am I doing this? Like we all struggle at different stages in our life, but you have to find something that works for you, like that you enjoy doing. And I really enjoyed this. So I upped the tempo in 2015, and I constantly kept stepping out of my comfort zone, because whenever I was afraid of failing, I just kept saying to myself, well, remember outside that casino, remember how you felt that night. Nothing is going to feel like that again. And that drove me on, and I was just going for it, like, and I was nearly afraid to look back. I just kept looking forward, and I started to do sketches in GA clubs, and some went well and some went really bad. But I was learning all the time, and I backed myself. I believed that this is what I was meant to do, because why my gut feeling was telling me to do it. Because as humans, like we're designed to stay in the comfort zone. Like whenever we see something that we might fail, what happens is fear takes over, and our mind tells us, no, get back and don't try that. But the gut feeling is the one that's driving the soul to say, no, I can do this. And I was listening to the gut feeling. Yes, it wasn't always right, but a lot of time it was. And then 2016 came along, and I left my job to to me, it was a no-brainer, but to everyone else around me, it was like, are you for real? Like, you're leaving a job for this that doesn't guarantee anything. Like, I had a young child at home, you know, and I had a rent to pay, but it was my gut feeling saying, Rory, look what you've done in a couple of years. Imagine if you went full time, and it did, and I dived right into it. And stuff started to happen. Like, I went to Australia then in 2016, done a tour for 3 weeks. Did it go well? Not really. Did I learn from it? Yes. Do I regret it? No. And then for me personally, with my reputation, I'd say the biggest step out of your comfort zone was when a book company came along and said, you should write a book about the GAA. And I was like, excuse me, a book? I'm dyslexic, I've done LCA, what are you on about a book? How could I write a book? They said, no, have a think about it. So I went away and I said, geez, imagine if I wrote a book like that same chap that was kicked out of school numerous days. Now imagine he wrote a book. And I kind of had a passion to do it, not just for me, but for other people who felt like me, maybe the LCA brigade, whatever we want to call ourselves, but to say, no, we can do it. And in 2017, I done that book, Rory Story's Guide to GA, which was a big hit that Christmas. And to be honest with you, even when I see my name on it now, it's surreal, like, you know, because I'm like, I shouldn't be writing a book, but it was, you ask me what you're most proud of, it's probably this, like, because like standing on stage and telling stories and making sketches, that's all fine, but this is the ultimate out of the comfort zone. An author, like, I laugh when people call me an author. An author, will you stop? Like, but it's true. And then the following year came along, and, you know, like unfortunately the way the country is, there's a bit of begrudgery going on, and it's like, look at your man there, wrote a book, sure, how could anyone write a book? And I said, do you know what, I just want to prove it's possible, so I'm going to write another book. So I wrote that the following year, Guide to Being Irish, like, and you have Brendan O'Carroll, like, he was massively successful, Mrs. Brown's Boys, endorsing the book. And it was just to prove that it is possible, and to show, you know, students really that maybe do LCA or done LCA, that the limitations are only in your mind. Like, you know, everyone is uniquely talented. Like, I don't care what anyone says, everyone in this room has a gift. It's about finding that gift. And when you do find it, back in yourself, and don't mind the brain. The brain's going to tell you you're failed. Listen to your gut feeling. That's when 2019 came along, and I was asked to do a tour of the country, which, again, I was terrified, going, no, I've done too much now. Jesus, no, how could I do that? But I said, no, maybe give it a shot. And I done it. And one by one, you know, the venues were selling out. And I done Vicar Street. And I remember standing in front of a full Vicar Street, you know, telling stories, being who I was meant to be. And I remember telling the people at Vicar Street, going, 6 years ago, I thought I'd nothing to live for, like, but I just needed a bit of help. And that's why asking for help can change your life in an amazing way. And that's why last year I told this story, Rory Story, handy name for a book. But there's just two pages that I love to show all students, especially in this book. So basically what this means is the person you are today doesn't mean you have to be that person for the rest of your life. So this is 2 letters from my old secondary school, Ashburn Community School. This letter here is dated the 23rd of March 2001. 20 years ago, and it's a letter suspending me from school. One of dozens of letters, I can guarantee you. My mother has a home, Rory's a disaster, he's no attention span, we don't know what to do with him, he's blah, 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 blah. And they were right, I was this nuisance in the classroom. I'm not even going to say I wasn't. That environment did not suit my personality. I had no attention span. I just kept looking out and wondering, you know, what kind of birds are in them trees. Like that was me in school. But then you have this letter here, which is from obviously my same school, and it's dated the 17th of January 2020, last year. And it's a letter from the current principal inviting me back to the school to speak to the students. To speak to the students as an ambassador for the school, like as a role model, and whatever you want to call it, but like completely 2 different, we'll say, people, but not really. Like, and when I was sitting outside the principal's office, which became my home during school, I wish that this person could go back to this person and say, relax, like, you know, don't worry, like, you know, this doesn't suit you, but it won't define you. But unfortunately, like I said at the start, a few of my friends, I'm not going to say it did define them, but it hasn't helped them. And they are struggling, and they're probably gone so far now that the star above them is a million miles away. But I want to try and stop people before they get down that road and realise that you have got potential. And like, if the likes of me, and I guarantee any teacher I've ever had can vouch for this, if the likes of me can write a book, like, and never mind one, but three of them, like, you know, I think anyone can do anything in life, but what you need to do is you need to understand that it's not going to be easy and you're going to fail. Failing's okay. Like, I don't mind failing, because when you fail, you learn about yourself, and you build what? You build resilience. So when you fail again, you're used to that feeling, and it's easy to get into bed and feel sorry for ourselves, and I've been that soldier, but like, it's about dusting yourself down and going again and going again and going again, because what I do learn, I'm only 34 years of age, like I look 46 because of no hair, but I'm only 34, but I've learned a lot in the last 7 or 8 years, especially about life generally rewards people who are willing to back themselves. That's what I've learned, and I'm not going to stand here and be one of these, like, you know, I know everything. I know very little about life, but I do understand that much, and I want students both here and listening to understand that you are talented, and don't be ashamed in any way of your friends getting their 600 points and you doing LCA, because I can guarantee you, when we go through life, everything levels out. Everything, like, you know, the person who got the 600 points might do a college degree and mightn't be happy what they do, where you can go off and do something you're passionate about, like I am, and be happy. Do you know what I mean? So anything is possible for you once you're willing to back yourself, basically. So that's pretty much all from my point of view. So thanks very much, and I appreciate it.